Hey, how you guys doing out there? James Suffer with Associates Productions Movie Reviews. I got my co-host with me, Ali, and here we are with episode 2, going into the X-Men movies, the X-Men movie franchises. We're talking X-Men First Class, we're talking Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and then we're talking
Dark Phoenix.
Let's get into it. Starting with number 1, X-Men First Class. Rebooted the series.
Yep.
But they didn't reboot it with the original X-Men.
Yes.
Which is a little confusing on their little timeline, you know. But
because like you're a huge X-Men fan, so like,
yeah.
So like for you as a fan of the X-Men series, you're like, what is this?
Yeah, they literally took. I don't think they have a single original member other than Beast. Beast is the only, I guess, original member of the first class of X-Men, however you want to put it. But other than that, that's it.
Right.
You know, they explore the relationship between Xavier and Magneto, which I'm convinced and not convinced that it's good, because it's hard to explain their relationship in an hour and 40-minute movie. You know what I mean? Their relationship was obviously a lot deeper, a lot bigger bond, because they did several different things together other than, you know, want peace for mutants and all this other stuff. But and eventually they went their separate ways, which they did kind of explain in the movie a little bit with, obviously Magneto's going in there to get some revenge on Sebastian Shaw. And he kind of runs into Xavier, which is a little, you know, he just kind of bumped into him and then they become friends kind of thing. Which is fine. You know, it's the beginning of the movie that's really tripping for me. Because you got Charles Xavier, you know, he has rich parents, whatever, blah, this, blah, that. They don't talk about his brother at all,
right?
You know, which we know is the Juggernaut. And then he runs into Mystique, who is this little orphan girl that is, I guess, on the run because of her mutant powers, mutant abilities, whatever. And she just starts living with Charles out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So that's a little off, a little confusing, because we all know that Mystique becomes part of the Brotherhood. She's like not really affiliated with the X-Men at all, nor is she really knows Charles at a young age in the movie. So for them to put her as a more definitive character in the series is like, you know, what are they doing with that? But whatever. And then with every single X-Men, obviously they have the idea of having all these different mutants with different powers, but they're only in the movie for like 30 seconds of the film. And so, you know, you get to see, you know, Banshee uses his power. You see Havoc, you know, using his powers. But then you have the other X-Men that are pretty powerful, but they're only in there for like 5-10 minutes.
Right.
You know, because I'm just now, I keep forgetting that Zoe Kravitz is in the movie.
As not Spitfire. I don't know her name. She's like
some bee bitch, right?
Yeah, like she's like a dragonfly. She has it's not Wasp, because Wasp is a completely different character. But she can fly, like she has like butterfly, or not butterfly, kind of wasp-like wings, but she can spit like fireballs at one point, because she fights Banshee at one point in the movie. It's, to me, like, the X-Men is a big collage of mutants, like in the stories and stuff like that. And watch this movie, to me, because I'm not a big Marvel, like I know it general enough, like, to get by in a nerddom conversation. I can talk X-Men a little bit, but and you start going to deep dive into it, I can't get as much into it, like, because I didn't read the X-Men growing up. I just got to watch from the X-Men Evolution, X-Men the 90s cartoon, and then Wolverine the X-Men. So watching First Class for me was like, oh, it's kind of neat getting a little more black backstory between Magneto and Charles Xavier, which the first 3 X-Men movies didn't really lay out. They just like, we know one's like Dr. King, the other one's like Malcolm X. Like, that is pretty much the gist of the X-Men, which is funny because they actually are based off of black people in the civil rights movement. So it's kind of cool seeing like, hey, representation. At one point, you know, they're not colored. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation for a different day. But you're right, like the movie does focus more on their backstory and how they meet. Because Sebastian Shaw is trying to start World War III. He's trying to get the Bay of Pigs.
Something like that?
They interact in real life situations in these newer movies, or I guess the reboot movies. They try to do more real life events in the movie. So they try to have like Sebastian Shaw get the Cuban Missile Crisis to actually take off and Russia fight the United States and cause World War III, and then the mutants going to rise up out of it. That was his game plan in the movie. Why do I remember that? I don't know.
Which doesn't make sense, because you would think if you want the mutants to rise, you would rather just get them all together and just take over,
right?
Instead of like trying to cause a miscellaneous war.
But that's what he was doing. So he got like the Hellfire Club. He got Emma Frost in here. Azrael, who was actually supposed to be Mystique in the comic. Did they get together and make Nightcrawler?
That is Nightcrawler's like dad.
Dad. Right? He's a cool character in the movie, but there's nothing else about him. Like he just shows
in and out.
That's all he does.
That was
he like has a cool fight. I think he even have a fight scene. He cuts people and leave, but he's there. So you're like, okay, so that's how you get. I guess Nightcrawler to even show us. But you have to be a nerd. Like not even a nerd. You have to be a fan of X-Men to know that that's Nightcrawler's dad. Other than that, when Nightcrawler shows up, you're just like, where you come from?
Yeah,
but,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but the movie to me, I think storyline wise is probably the most easy to follow. Anybody can get behind it. The acting in the movie is great.
I want to say that's where it goes good, is because it had some pretty good actors. They had James McAvoy. They had Michael Fassbender. Believe it or not, they had who's playing Mystique?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence playing Mystique. That's probably why she had such a big character in the first place.
And that's 100% to add to that. Okay, when you talk about how Mystique showed up at Charles Xavier's place, and then they end up being like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And they go to college together, but Mystique is having this whole like, you get to show off your mutant abilities because Charles Xavier
identity crisis shit.
And Charles Xavier's a partier in this movie. Like he starts off like he's just trying to use his mutant ability to get girls. And there's a scene where like he checked this girl at the bar. She has like 2 different color eyes. He's like, oh, you have a mutant gene, and he's doing the whole mutant explanation. And then Mystique changes her eye color, and she goes, oh, you have it too. And Charles will go like, what the? And then like take Mystique out the bar. Like, what are you doing? So Charles Xavier is a party, but he's super smart. So that's why the government comes up to Charles and hey, we need you to take down this dude, Sebastian Shaw. And then Magneto's trying to do the same thing, and that's how they come across each other. So they're like, all right, we'll make a team of mutants. We'll get very strong, and then we'll like kind of be like, not protectors, but we're just an elite group of mutants to fight back Sebastian Shaw.
They're like giving each other's names like they're a bunch of kids in a comic book. You know what I mean? It's like you can't portray a movie as being mature and then go back to being kids. You know what I mean? You can't be kids and then start portraying the movie as mature. It's either keep it mature, with funny shit, or keep it kiddie with kiddie shit. You know what I mean?
Right. But even the X-Men, because James McAvoy, Charles Xavier, and Michael Fassbender, it was like, what are you doing? Why are you naming like this is she's like, this is Havoc, this is Banshee, and they're like, what? Yeah. Like even they was like, what? Which is funny you bring that up, because they even looked at it like, what? But overall, I think this movie is probably one of the best ones in the movie because of the acting and the writing. Even though it might not be comic book accurate, for somebody who's not into like, you can show this movie to anybody who's not a superhero fan or comic book fan, be like, I get it. I get it.
I can give them that. It's not the worst of the movies. We're going to talk about that here in a second.
To me, this is like the best one of the X-Men movies. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely one. It's the best one to me of the X-Men movies because it's like it's just a good, solid story. They might not have no Cyclops, Jean Grey, the Beast, Iceman.
Oh, they got Beast, but
they have Beast, yes, who's played by, I can't think of his name, but and he
Nicholas Hoyt. Yeah, Nicholas Hoyt.
Nicholas Hoyt, who has identity crisis because he wants to. One of the side stories in the movie, he wants to be normal, so he makes his feet back to normal, but still keeps the mutant abilities. But he takes his Mystique's DNA to try to make him normal. He gets it right, and then it reverses, and he turns to the blue character, the Beast, the Blue Beast.
Which, are we gonna talk about the CGI in this movie?
Okay, what part?
Like, because Beast just looks like a grown-up Sonic. You know what I mean? It's like
I don't think that was CGI. I think that was legit, like costume design makeup.
No, I want to say that dude had a green suit, man.
Oh, really?
It looked like he had a shitty ass green suit, and then like he looked like a grown. He looked like he could be Sonic's dad.
I'll never forget the first time I watched this movie on my friend's place, and they showed Beast, and I was like, "That's Beast. That's him. Like, what is this? What?" I was like, "That's Beast." I was like, "Why does he look like that?" Like my friend, like Ali, why won't you like that? Like, no, he looks like. Like, that's the worst thing about this movie. That to me, because like the ending scene where Magneto was like using. Granted, he did the same thing to move the satellite. Not the satellite. He moved the giant radio. I think it's a radio.
Yeah, I think it is a satellite. Like
satellite.
A radio satellite, something like
Like
that.
he moved that, and he does the same thing again when he takes the submarine out the water, which is a cool moment because he has to dig deep into his past because Magneto's been suppressing his past. He's from the Holocaust. He survives the Holocaust, and he's repressing his past. And Charles like, no, tap into that emotion. And you have like Michael Fassbender like breaking a tear. Like it's really good acting. The movie has some really good acting. Mm-hmm. And then like the ending scene where Magneto like decided instead of like doing peace, he's like, no, this dude was in charge of killing my mom. He was in charge of all the torment during the Holocaust. He's about to die. And Magneto used the same coin that I think Sebastian Shaw
tried to get him to move as a kid.
He has it. He's like, and Shaw can't move, who was played by Kevin Bacon, can't move, but he can see everything. And to me, it's like one of the gruesome deaths in the X-Men movie because Charles Xavier is controlling Shaw, but he can feel the pain. So like Magneto has this giant quarter just goes right through Shaw's head all the way out, and you just hear James McAvoy just screaming, like he's like, "Don't do it!" And he's, I don't know, to me, it's just a cool scene that. I don't know, it's a good ending. And then you have the whole Magneto puts Charles Xavier in a wheelchair.
Well, it was an accident.
It was an accident, but...
It was an accident, but I mean, it is what it is.
Because...
It's still interesting on how he got into the wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And it's really strange how, I guess, Charles Xavier, like, transforms throughout the series with all the different things that happens to him. Like, he loses his legs, then he loses his hair, and all this, so he gets his wheelchair. It's all real strange and whatever, but let's go ahead and move on to Days of Future Past, which of course these movies they start out good and they go bad and then they go from bad to worse and then from worse to what the fuck.
That's fair.
Days of Future Past is obviously based off of the Days of Future Past comic book where more or less what happens is, you got Charles Xavier who sends Wolverine in the past to stop an assassination attempt on a specific key character that more or less morphs the future of the timeline, or however you want to explain it, with the Sentinels and shit. So the movie starts out with these badass Sentinels, like these motherfuckers are fucking the X-Men up and killing them all of them.
Yeah.
But then you actually see more new characters that only last 5 minutes in the film. You get to see some of the older characters, some of your big names. So you got Storm and Kitty Pryde and all the rest of the characters back in there, all working together. And apparently, Kitty Pryde has the, I guess, mutant ability to change or morph someone's mind back to their past body, whatever. So, Wolverine goes back in the past, talk to Charles Xavier, who is going through it, more or less. Mm-hmm. Which really isn't really explained because Beast comes up with this formula to get him to walk again, but it suppresses his mutant powers.
So Charles Xavier gave up his mutant powers for the chance to walk again, and it's funny because this movie, which is to me why I actually like this movie more than Days of Future First Class, and it's my favorite X-Men movie because of the fact they was able to do time travel was a messy thing. We miss with time travel, you can get all over the place, but they kind of keep it a little more concise. But the writers try to take the original X-Men movies, the first three, and use those casts to bring back into this movie. They even like a scene at the end of the Wolverine set this movie up in a sense where Charles Xavier's alive again. Him and Magneto team up and say, "Hey, Wolverine, something about to happen." Well, happening is that the Sentinels that Trask made morphed into these like killer robots, like Terminator, like things from like. Have you seen Thor 1? The Abomination is the destroyer thing from Thor 1. That kind of skeleton suit. They was kind of like morphing and killing the humans, but they go back. They send Wolverine back in past, and Wolverine has the bone claws, and he finds Charles Xavier, who Sir Patrick Stewart told Hugh Jackman, like, "Hey, And the reason I named the characters, the reason I named the actor's name because that's who they are. They like Patrick Stewart told Hugh Jackman that that James McAvoy is not in the right spot. He's like, I wasn't there in the right mind during the 1970s. And then the fun one is finding Michael Fassbender's Magneto, but he's like, you have to convince me to join your side because I'm not down with the mutant cause right now. And that's what it was. Like, Charles Xavier was so messed up from the First Class movie that he was like, F all y'all. I'm just here chilling. And his enabler, the Beast, is sitting there just giving him drugs to keep him walking again, but he can't do anything.
Here's my thing. So, Wolverine goes in the past to figure out what the hell's going on, blah, this, blah, that. What happened to Charles Xavier to get him out of, the funk that he was in originally without Wolverine being there? That's what's kind of flipping me out.
Charles Xavier from the future, he connects to...
No. I get that, but listen to me here. So Wolverine goes in the past, whatever does it, whatever gets the old or the new. I don't know how to explain the old or new Patrick, whatever.
New Patrick Stewart.
He gets the old Charles Xavier to get the new one or the young one out of the funk, whatever, right? But I'm like, what happened previously to get him out of that funk? In the first 3 movies, because then obviously he's who he is in those movies. You see what I mean?
Right. I don't know, because how did Magneto get out of the Pentagon?
Yeah, it's like, and then they have Magneto, who killed, or they arrested him for assassinating JFK, but I guess JFK was actually a mutant,
and Magneto was trying
to save him from that. So I guess they try to get more, political with their assassinations or killings.
This was
or whatever.
In the 70s, because the other one's in the 60s. First Class 60s, this is 70s. I guess would be Mystique killing Trask, because she killed Trask, who was played by Peter Dinklage. In the other movie, he was played by a black guy. I can't think of his name. And he's in X-Men's Last Stand. Trask is. He's played by Bubba. Is it Bubba something? Bubba Dukes? Maybe not.
I don't remember. I try to forget that movie.
But then you have, because this is time when Game of Thrones is really big. So Peter Dinklage is playing Trask, which is completely different people. I'm guessing the fact when Mystique killed him, it was like Charles Xavier was like, oh, well, I can't sit back anymore. I guess I have to step up. It's the only thing I could think of in this universe to make Charles get out of that funk that he was in the first. But then again, the first 3 movies wasn't made with this movie in mind. And they was like, we just retconning everything, but let's clean the whole timeline up for the sake of writing. So that's why they add the old cast in here to clean it up. Because the movie does end with a nice bow on it at the end of the movie when everything's all said and done. But to me, this movie was like, it's one of the best X-Men movies because the fact the timeline thing, but then you also get that Quicksilver scene where time in a bottle, which is used pretty well. And people, it was done so well that Sonic the Hedgehog used it. They used it 2 more times in their X-Men movie. It's used in other movies where the speedster's running super fast. The Super Mario Brothers movie used it. They were moving super fast and they slow it. Like, it's the person moving fast, but everything else is super slow motion. They keep doing it because it's a good scene.
It's a good scene.
It's a good scene.
I just don't like how we know that Quicksilver is Magneto's son.
Right.
They play somewhat cameo in the movie, but it's like, how are they going to run into each other? I mean, is Magneto really that deadbeat dad? You know what I mean? It's like, he don't know that this is his son, or,
I think Magneto knew, or he knew of him, because Quicksilver said, like, I think my dad could use metal like that, or something like that. Magneto looked over like,
no, he was like, nah, I'm good, man. He did like a Black Dynamite move. Was like, nah, hush, little girls. A lot of cats out here with that. A lot of cats out here with that power.
He's like, I'm not about to dive into this.
Let's talk about the ending real quick before we move on. So, one of the things that bummed me out was you don't see any real action with the damn Sentinels other than those futuristic ones that was killing everybody in the beginning of the movie. Other than that, you see purple, silver Sentinel that's big as shit. And, I'm looking for Wolverine to climb this motherfucker and cut his head off or something, and you just don't get it. Magneto goes over there to, control the Sentinels and try to threaten everybody with it, but then that's kind of it,
Right.
And then you got Mystique that's doing her thing, trying to, go rogue from her friendship with Magneto, but then go rogue from her friendship with Xavier and trying to do her own thing.
Mystique's on a revenge plan because Trask took the abilities of the other mutants from First Class and killed them. Because that's what she found out, like, whatever her name is. Zoe Kravitz gets killed that way. Yeah. Banshee gets killed. And somebody else gets killed because she found the files and she was like, all right, I'm going to kill Trask because he's making these Sentinels. And Magneto and Charles, they've got to stop them with Wolverine to prevent the future events from happening. And the ending, Magneto's like, no, Mystique, you're on the right plan. However, mutants going to take over the world again, so I'm going to use these Sentinels to kill humans. And Mystique comes down, kills Magneto. She injured Magneto and end up not killing Trask. And everybody sees Mystique as a hero because Magneto's going to try to kill Trask in the president. So it pretty much turned to Magneto being the villain. Mystique turned out to be the good guy. The future is saved.
And then Wolverine goes back into the future of his original body, and then they bring back all the original X-Men that died from other different circumstances in the timeline,
Because, like, it retconned everything. So as far as the first three movies...
Like, I don't know if this... When he goes back, it has to be after X-Men 3, I
don't think X-Men 3 ever happens.
Okay. Well, like, that makes a little bit more sense, but then...
Because, like, the only people who know the actual past are...
him and
Charles.
Xavier.
And I guess the Beast... No, because he said, hello, old friend. So it's not even the Patrick Stewart... It's not in the Patrick Stewart who sent Wolverine back. Wolverine's the only one who has the memories of everything. Because everybody else is all the 70s on up. So that Jean Grey that he met is not the same Jean Grey that he was trying to hook up with in the third movie. And that Cyclops he met is not the same Cyclops. Matter of fact, he takes over. If you think about it, it's really messed up. He literally takes over the Wolverine who was living there. So that Wolverine is no longer there. That Wolverine's existence is gone.
It's so fucking confusing. You know what I mean?
So the Wolverine that wakes up in Apocalypse is not the Wolverine that's end up being in the future, but the Logan Wolverine is that Wolverine. Hear me out. The Logan Wolverine.
Break it down. I'm listening.
The Logan Wolverine is the Hugh Jackman Wolverine for X-Men 1, 2, and 3, but the first class Wolverine, the one that says "fuck off" Wolverine, that one is not the Wolverine that's at the end of Days of Future Past.
I get what you're saying. I'm listening to your explanation.
Because you think about it, remember, cause he told him to fuck off, right? And then Wolverine from the future, I guess, the first three Wolverines, he takes over that Wolverine, the 70s Wolverine, right? So that's
yes, but that was after the fact, though.
Can you remember Wolverine slipped back into the future for a moment? Because Katie couldn't hold on to him, and he cuts her, and Wolverine's like, what the fuck am I? He's like, who the fuck are you? And Beast's like, you're just tripping right now. Charles is like, you're in a really bad trip right now.
Yeah.
That was Wolverine coming back in, and then when Wolverine goes back to the future, the Wolverine that gets taken over is the 70s Wolverine again, and then you have that version until Wolverine comes back. When he wakes up at the end of Days of Future Past, he wakes up. The Hugh Jackman from X-Men 1, 2, and 3 pretty much just kills his whole self. Like his current self is no longer existing.
The way I took it was it's the same Wolverine. He just gathered all of his memories that he supposedly lost throughout the rest of the movies, if that makes sense. Because remember, even at the beginning of the movie, beginning of the series, he had no memory of what was going on.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the Ant-Man named Bullets, whatever, in another episode. But anyway, he lost his memory. He didn't have any memory, but then because he went through all that and he remembered everything, he's just a Wolverine that remembers everything that happened. And then at the remember, Charles like, oh, welcome back, old friend, kind of thing. Yeah. Because like, oh, you've been gone for.
He's like, I gotta fill you in on everything.
You know what I mean?
So you had to fill him in. If his memories merged together, then he wouldn't even be filled in on anything. though. That's why like it's messed up. Pretty much he just stole, like it's like you going to your future self, come back and just take your whole self. Like, hey, James, I know you having a good life, but
here's the thing. Even so, why didn't Patrick or not Patrick, but Charles Xavier just tell Wolverine what the fuck happened if he knew what the hell happened?
No, he's about to tell him. That's what that movie ends like. I'm gonna fill you in on everything because you've been gone over the past 50 years. You don't know what happened the last 50 years. That's what I'm like. Because remember, Wolverine had to go get captured again to put the claws back in him. So,
it's all
which Mystique helps spearheads that because she takes over. Stryker, because Stryker's in this movie too. A young Stryker's in this movie.
Yeah, and
that's what set Wolverine off. Wolverine sees Stryker, he gets set off, and he starts losing it. And he go back into the future for a moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, it's a very convoluted movie. I still enjoy it though.
Yeah. Moving on to the worst two. Xmen Apocalypse. Do we give a moment of silence or this movie's bad. It's bad. So they brought back the original X-Men with the old characters from First Class or short. So they have we're dealing with the young Xavier, we're dealing with the young Magneto, the young Mystique, and all this other stuff. But then we brought back the original X-Men with new characters. So we see Cyclops, we see Storm, we see, Beast is in there, whatever, doing his thing. And then, of course, we have like every X-Men, you have the few characters that are big, but they only in there for 5-10 minutes. And this movie is pretty cut and dry. From the events of the future past, they more or less unlocked or revealed Apocalypse, which is supposed to be the strongest mutant on the planet, or some shit like that. He gets his Horsemen which his Horsemen's not even that powerful, man. But whatever. Anyway, he gets his 4 Horsemen to more or less take over the world. And so Xavier and all the other X-Men are pretty much more or less dispatched to take on Apocalypse, which they are still very young, still very not a team, coming together, and then they beat Apocalypse. That's the movie.
It is, and it wouldn't be a bad movie if that was just the movie. That's the problem. This movie tried to do way too much for no reason. Like, there was X-Men Days of Future Past should have been the end of the series. 2 movies, wrap it up, you had a nice little bow, leave it alone, bring out Logan, we're done. But no, they wanted to, let's give Magneto another moment where he had to lose everything again. Which
he's out in the mountains or something.
Have a nice life. Like, the dude has a kid,
just
a beautiful wife, chilling. He works at a coal mine he works at a steel mill, and he ended up saving a dude's life. And the dude was like, that's a guy who was on the run years ago. Because this movie was in the 80s. So that's a guy on the run 10 years ago, or however long it was.
That killed John F.
And then try to kill the president again.
Who remembers that shit? But whatever.
He's a famous mutant. We should probably report him.
And then
he's in Poland. That's another thing.
That's right.
He's not even in America. He's overseas.
And then here's the thing. We understand that mutants still hiding?
No.
So they came out in Days of Future Past where Beast, whatever, that was a big reveal of mutants. And so for them to be so surprised that there's still fucking mutants around.
And then Mystique was the hero of mutants because she stopped Magneto, so she was a savior. So she's like the savior of mutants. Like, she's a big thing. Storm looks up to Mystique, you're the hero, the mutant hero.
And even then, you still have mutants that are like still getting into shit, still getting into trouble. They're not hiding. So,
but for some reason, this dude, because I guess Magneto was trying to hide away, which makes sense. He broke out the Pentagon, so he still wanted me. He didn't finish his crime. He finished his sentence. Then he tried to turn around and try to kill.
He Poland like a non-extradited country or some shit.
Yeah, and he's hiding out. But Magneto, instead of letting this dude die, he was like, I'm just gonna move this out the way. Like, he literally just did this, moved it, and said, I'm gonna go back to work. No big deal. Dude saw it and was like, I'm gonna report him. Magneto loses because his daughter had mutant powers. I think she can control nature. So the police officer shot his daughter, but then the wife jumped in the way to shot the wife, and it wasn't a bullet, it was bow and arrow, so Magneto couldn't use his ability to stop it. And there's a moment where Michael Fassbender goes like, and then what you want from me? Like, it's like the most emotional part of this movie was that scene where I was like, God dang it, my heart with Magneto. But that's the best part of that movie, literally, because then you have
ending was not good.
Because you have they bring back Quicksilver for Sweet Dream of Minds, and Havoc comes back, blows up. He tried to blow up
something
Apocalypse because Apocalypse captures Charles Xavier. We're trying to blow him up, miss it. He hits Cerebro. Cerebro blows up. Quicksilver comes in, save everybody. So Sweet Dream of Mine is playing, which once again a cool scene, but we seen in the first movie. We had to see it again because everybody loves that scene. Which then brings up Stryker to come back to do the whole Weapon X scene that we didn't need to have Weapon X in this movie to reveal. Oh my God, Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine because we can't quit Wolverine as a franchise because you just can't watch an X-Men movie without having Wolverine for some reason. You people. Anyway, let me stop. So that whole thing is there for no reason because that does nothing to the movie.
I don't even know why were they even? Oh yeah, because Stryker like captured the mutants or something, right?
Yes.
I think that was the only reason they were there.
Jean Grey, Cyclops, not Jubilee, who's in this movie, Nightcrawler, which he's in this movie. Mystique sees Nightcrawler, but there's no interaction between them.
Some more deadbeat parenting right there.
Right? Angel's in this movie. He becomes Archangel because Apocalypse needs Angel to be one of his 4 horsemen. So Angel and Nightcrawler fight each other, and Angel loses his wings. Once again, another big storyline for Angel. Like, there's so many storylines in this movie that...
It's hard to have character development when they're only 5 minutes in the film.
Yes.
You know? So it's like we can't get excited for these characters because we know they're not lasting long, you know?
Olivia Munn is in here, who I adore, is Psylocke, who...
But she does, like, she cuts a car and leaves. She cuts a car and leaves.
Magneto enjoys Apocalypse because, yeah, man, why not? Like, I lost everything again. I guess I should only be a bad guy. So I'm going to enjoy Apocalypse versus saying, like, I don't feel like being a bad dude. Magneto Lucas said no. Well, Apocalypse, at this point, Apocalypse, the only thing he's done was use Charles Xavier to set up every missile in the world and have him blow up in space.
Which makes no sense, because if he's the most powerful mutant, he don't need, like, missiles to do shit. Like, you're the most powerful mutant, you know?
And then you talk about how he lost his hair. Charles Xavier loses his hair by getting taken over. So not to say nothing against paraplegics, but I guess Charles Xavier mind what it was. But his ability, besides I'm in a wheelchair, I can't really do anything else. Apocalypse is like, I want his mind. I'm going to transfer my body into Charles Xavier. But Charles Xavier can't walk. So Apocalypse automatically putting himself in a situation where he's the powerful mutant in the world, but he's going to be stuck to a chair. I guess Charles Xavier can just use his ability to stop anyone from approaching him. I don't know. But to me, it is like a good person, the mind, yes, but the body, I would not want Charles Xavier's body if I'm trying to be the most dominant person in the world. When I'm stuck wheelchair bound, I need somebody else to push me around. Doesn't make
doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Charles hasn't got the ability to, he doesn't have the car yet, so he can just move around in the car, in the hover car. He doesn't have that yet.
Which would have been awesome if they did.
Yeah, and that makes more sense why Apocalypse chose him. Like, he can move around without the ability of needing somebody to push him around or his arms. Okay, but no, Apocalypse is going to take over his body, which forces Charles Xavier to lose his hair.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. They tease the Phoenix, whatever, a little bit with Jean's power. You know.
Which we're all like, oh, that's a Phoenix. Okay, cool. The Phoenix is in the movie. It's automatically inside of her. We don't need to have a whole another movie. Cool. The Phoenix there because Magneto's like, I'm going to join up with the good guys again at the end of the movie. So Magneto, Jean Grey, Cyclops are all attacking Apocalypse, and that's how they beat him. Because Charles is fighting him in his mind, I think. Because Charles goes, this is my house now. Punches him.
I've seen it once.
I've watched the movie 3 times. Enough to know how we get here. Oh, by the way, Apocalypse is awakened, and he learns everything by watching TV. He calls it learning.
Let's just move on.
It's
a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's a really bad movie. It's really bad. So bad that they made another one.
Yeah.
Going into the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Which this movie is 100% irrelevant.
Yeah. It's worse.
It's worse.
It.
Let's start with the story. So, the X-Men are like fully formed now. I guess they were still like playing around in the kiddie pool in the first 8 films, you know. But I guess they're officially a team now with the costumes, and they have a jet. Don't have a boat. We'll talk about that later. But they have a jet, and they get a distress call from space.
the president sends them, they're so popular that the president has them as a government elite squad, pretty much. The Xmen are legit.
Does that not make them government employees?
Yeah, pretty much. They are. They're a tactical squad. Like, ain't the X-Force that group? Like the tactical squad version of X-Men?
Yeah.
So think of the X-Force, but they're working for the United States government, and they, like I said, the distress call from space.
You get the distress call from space, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, some shit. So they go up there to find everybody dead, obviously. And then the Phoenix, like, comes after Jean, because Jean was trying to save Nightcrawler from poofing people in and out that were already dead, or something like that. I don't know. And she, like, becomes the Phoenix.
Which, mind you, the third movie, she's using the Phoenix Force. So, like, they looked at that third, looked at Apocalypse, was like, nah, we don't not gonna say that's the Phoenix power. So, like, it just automatically, like, negated what you just made from a different movie. Now, I think there's a different director in this movie. I think Bryan Singer comes back in this one.
Yeah, I think that is true. So, he just come back and like fuck it up worse.
So he was like, I still want the Phoenix to be like comic book accurate. Which, yes, in the comic book, that's how the Phoenix attaches to Jean Grey. But the movie's already just established that power was inside of her, so she just left it be a power inside of her. You didn't need to go into space to do this.
Something like that. So anyway, she becomes the bad guy. And everybody's afraid to kill her, but she's not afraid to kill people. She killed like 3 people and a bunch of soldiers. And Magneto is off living his best life again. And they come and fuck that up for him. And I guess they try to give some kind of heartfelt relationship with Mystique dying or some shit. Apparently everybody was banging Mystique because everybody was like sad about her dying and shit.
Beast and Mystique actually has a relationship, I think, in this movie. Or they formed a relationship or something like that.
Something like that.
So Beast makes sense because Beast been hitting on Mystique since day one. Like, he saw her, he was like, God dang, she's gorgeous. But then he told her, like, I don't like you in your mutant form, I like you in your human form, which Mystique was like, went off on that. But it makes sense. Beast was an idiot. Magneto was like, oh yeah, Mystique, you're good. I like it. And Charlie Xavier and Mystique would be brothers and sisters, so...
Like brothers and sisters or some shit.
Yeah, so Jean kills Mystique in this movie because Jennifer Lawrence pretty much just didn't want to be in the movie anymore. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Fourth movie, she's tired of it.
Well, I mean, maybe she's actually reading her ratings. You know what I mean?
So she gets killed off with a push, pretty much, and stabbed to death. Oh, Quicksilver gets taken out the movie from like a force push as well, and his legs are broken, so he can't be used in this movie because the dude who moved faster than the speed of lighting can knock out, couldn't stop the Phoenix, whatever. How you get Magneto involved? Jean Grey goes to Magneto and says, "Hey, this is going on. I need help." And then the government shows up, try to attack Jean Grey, and Magneto's like, "Get the fuck out of here! I don't have time for this." Mm-hmm. So she leaves, but then Beast comes back like, "No, Magneto, guess what? Jean Grey killed Mystique. Yeah. Are you going to team up with me to kill her?" And Magneto's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go out here. Let's go mess up Jean Grey."
Hold on, and then by the third act of the film, they have like a whole nother subplot villain in the fucking movie, which is confusing.
Jennifer Chastain is an alien from another world that the Phoenix killed her people off, but they all came to Earth and
apparently been hiding for a while.
And they was going to use the Phoenix they were trying to use the Phoenix to take over the planet instead of like kill the Phoenix. So they're trying to use Jean Grey to tap into to take over. Anyway, it comes down to a cool a train scene where the mutants are fighting these unknown aliens. Mm-hmm. Nightcrawler has a moment. Good for him.
Magneto did some killing.
Yeah, there's a moment where he stopped all the bullets and he's doing like the bullet
doing
thing.
His Neo thing, and he killed some people. And
then you have a Dragon Ball Z like fight between Jennifer Chastain. Oh my God. But it was that.
You ain't lying. They were like doing some shit.
Wait a minute. I got to think about it. I said it. I was like, no, that was it. But why did she have... What was Jennifer Chastain's power? Why did she...
I don't know. Like, the movie, the whole movie was just dumb.
It was boring and dry. Like, we make it sound a lot better. Like, me saying that made it sound like, I might tap into that and see where if you see Man of Steel, it's nothing like Man of Steel. It was just like them shoot a beam at each other and then they collide and Jean Grey like kills herself for the sake of the mutants.
Sacrifice bullshit.
And then they named the school gifted after Mystique. I think. Was it Mystique or Jean Grey? They named it after one of those two for no reason, but it's a dry movie. I think it's
really bad. It's worse than Apocalypse.
Yeah, they should have stopped at the Days of Future Past.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They should have. I think Fox lost money that they went bankrupt and had to sell it to Marvel, or Disney or whatever. Like they needed somebody to buy that shit.
And I think they just kept doing it. They kept making these movies for the sake of, I guess, licensing to keep the movies right because they really didn't need to.
That they always want to compete with their other big time franchise movies like Fast and the Furious and Harry Potter and all this stuff. That's when like it was known to have more than 3 movies in a franchise.
Right?
So it's like we got to compete with all these movies that came out with 6 or 7 films or some shit.
And the Xmen shouldn't be that hard. Like there's so many.
There actually really are like several different storylines to go into with the X-Men other than the Phoenix and the Sentinels and all this other shit, you know?
If you just focus on storylines and just say, okay, this movie's going to be a Gambit movie, and we're just focused on Gambit. We just need 4 characters. We don't need this ensemble of cast of people, because I think that's what X-Men keep doing wrong. Now, I get it. It's called the X-Men, but when you have 20 characters that you're trying to put into a movie...
There's 20 different storylines going all over the place.
Versus just use 3 of the... I understand it's X-Men. I get that, but like... You can alternate different storylines from different movies. Like, it is called the X-Men. Like, for most part, the one consistent part of X-Men was Wolverine. He was consistent across the board.
And then they made him the main character in every single fucking movie.
Yes. Yes. Like, in the new reboots, like, I said this earlier with James, and this is probably one of the series where I watched the first movie and it gradually gets worse. Now, granted, I love Days of Future Past, but if you go look at the ratings out there, the movies are like First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix. Like, it literally goes from good to worse. And I don't know, like most movies just like maybe the first one's really good, second one's okay, and the third one like it goes up like peaks and valleys before you just go completely down. And another thing they did wrong in this series, New Mutants was supposed to come out between Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse. Because if you watch it in Apocalypse, the after credit scene is talk about Essex, like Essex Corporation. And there's like, oh shoot, we better get Mr. Sinister. Like, I thought that was the next movie we were about to get. And then we get Dark Phoenix. I
think the movie was bombing so bad that they just couldn't get what they were wanting to get out of the series. Like, people were like, okay, we're done.
You're done. Yeah, pretty much.
After Apocalypse, they were like, we're done. Okay, well, we kind of paid these actors to do this Phoenix movie.
So
we kind of did the Phoenix movie.
And you go watch the New Mutant movie and go watch behind the scenes stuff. That's what happened. Like, they was like, well, we'll keep putting back new Mutants, get the Phoenix stuff done. Oh, there's Deadpool. We don't want Deadpool to interact with the New Mutants and push that back. So we put Deadpool out first, and Deadpool did so good. It's like, let's focus on Deadpool too. Let's skip, because Deadpool is in the same universe of the X-Men movies. Like, if you watch Deadpool 2, there's a whole scene where Deadpool's like, where is everybody? And they're all like in the corner looking over, shutting the door. And Deadpool's a good way to do a mutant movie without putting so many characters in it.
Well, yeah, that's literally what they did with Deadpool. That they had, 1 or 2 characters that they focused on, and then they made references to other characters, but they didn't really expand on that shit, to make that movie bad. You know what I mean?
And then when they did in Deadpool 2, they did like the whole like all the characters. It was a quick cameo of them and just getting killed real quick. And you're like, oh, our team just went downhill.
No, that was most definitely the best part. Most definitely the best part.
Like,
anyway, let's go ahead and.
Oh, sorry. I just thought about that. I thought Brad Pitt. I was like, he's just like, is that Brad Pitt? You're right though.
Let's go ahead and end the episode there. That's pretty good for those 4 movies. Next week we're doing the Logan movie.
Yep.
Finishing up our X-Men franchise.
All the X-Men.
Openings with the
Wolverines.
With the Wolverines, Wolverine Origins.
God.
The Wolverine, and then Logan, which was obviously the best.
Yeah, it's like if you throw just a quick tidbit, if you throw that in there, like Logan's probably arguably the best X-Men movie there is. If you're just doing X-Men themselves, I think First Class the best. But yeah, we talked about that the other day. But
yeah,
God, you go from one of the worst. We're not gonna talk about. We're not diving into it right now.
Yeah, let's just cut it off there.